Your rights as a photographer. So the photographer's rights. Your rights and remedies when stopped or confronted for photography. So you can, as a photographer, take images of almost anything from almost anywhere because we're in a public place. But like we mentioned, taking a photo and publishing a photo, completely different issues. And this is where we start dealing with copyrights and commercial use and what's fair use. So there is a document, attorney Bert Craigs came up with this. And this is something that I know a lot of photographers just keep in their camera bag. Just because if you're confronted, and this is a really gray area, a lot of people don't quite understand photography laws and rules. So you can pull this out, even though it's not a legal document, it at least gives people a little bit of direction on what you can do and what you can't do. So the general rule in the United States is that anyone may take photographs of whatever they want when they are in a public place or places where they have permission to take photographs. All right, so when a property owner does come out and tell you that you can't photograph that while on the premises, then you are legally obligated to honor that request. Exceptions to some of this general rule. The U.S. Department of Energy can also prohibit photography of nuclear facilities, although it might be publicly visible to everyone. So those areas like nuclear facilities, you can see them from a public location. They're usually not designated as, public that you can take a photo of. Also, that reasonable expectation of privacy, things like dressing rooms, restrooms, medical facilities, inside people's homes, that's usually off limits as well. Permissible subjects. So subjects that can almost always be photographs lawfully from public places. Again, you're in a public place. You can take photos of accident and fire scenes as long as, like I said, you don't get in their way. You can take photos of children, celebrities, bridges, and other infrastructures. You can take pictures of residential and commercial buildings, industrial facilities, public utilities, transportation facilities like airports, train stations, bus stops, criminal activities, and you can take pictures of law enforcement officers. So under no obligation are you required to explain the purpose of your photography, nor do you have to disclose your identity, except for states or areas that require it upon the request of a local law enforcement officer. So this sheet is just a good one just to print out, keep in your camera bag, read through it, just so that you have a good idea of what you can and what you cannot take a photo of. When do you need a model release? So model release, as we've mentioned, anytime you publish a photograph that includes a recognizable person, you should have a model release. This does include family members. So the relationship to the subject does not exempt you from the need for a model release. If you are doing a planned photography session with people, models, weddings, children, always have them sign a model release. And it's really for your own safety. It's important that they understand what they are signing and explain what it is. They are signing away their rights to the photograph of themselves or of their children. And so it's very understandable that they may have some questions or concerns that you will need to answer and explain. A model release should specify the subject, the date, the nature of the photos, and the permissions given. So here in the next slide, I'll show you an example of a very generic model release. It's a good idea to check with a local lawyer who knows the regulations in the area before adopting a model release. And again, remember that laws are different from country to country, from state to state. So you do want to contact a lawyer or a local law enforcement officer even to find out those specific laws in the area. It also might be a good idea, if you can't get a hold of anyone, to contact a local newspaper, because they often have good knowledge of what can be photographed and what the related laws are in the area or region that they work in. Here's a model release. this is a legal document. And what it does is it states that you as the photographer hold the rights to the photo, to the photograph, and that you as the photographer can do whatever you want with it. So it's a photography and publishing consent. I agree to allow photographs of me taken by you as the photographer to be published for any purpose and in any format. This release covers photographs made on, so this is the date, and then signed it. And so if the subject is a minor, you want to make sure that you have something as the parent or legal guardian can sign. Okay. There are other types, lots of ideas out there. If you want to go ahead and create a model release, don't copy exactly something that you find, but get some ideas out there. There's also something called time for print. And this is something that is becoming more and more common. And it's really when you're working with models, but it can be for anyone. So if you're working with a model, they are giving you their time for, in return, some sort of agreed upon prints for the compensation of their time. So models want to build their portfolios. They need to have pieces. Photographers want to build their portfolios. They need to have some photos. So to work together, and so that you agree to take this model's photos, for you to get the photos and for the model to get those photos to be compensated for their time to build their portfolio.